Everything seemed perfect for the Indiana Fever. The team was celebrating a blockbuster offseason, new faces were filling the locker room, and excitement was at an all-time high thanks to one sensational rookie, Caitlin Clark. Then, one roster move plunged the entire organization into turmoil in a single stroke. Brianna Turner, a seasoned defensive talent, arrived like a bolt from the blue and brought a storm of controversy with her. The backlash was instant. Fans who'd been hyped about the Fever's future suddenly felt betrayed. Now questions loom large. Has one signing undone months of hope, or will Indiana find a way to preserve the magic it's worked so hard to create? The Fever's front office had been busy crafting a roster around Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, and a few other key veterans. They'd retooled the lineup, hoping to construct a future dynasty around Clark's spectacular shooting and floor leadership. That was where Brianna Turner was supposed to fit in. She came with a reputation for excellent defense, a solid presence in the paint and on the perimeter. At first glance, it made sense. Every team aiming for a title needs a defensive anchor, someone who can lock down scorers and spark fast breaks. Fans were cautiously optimistic. They already had the offensive firepower, so shoring up the defense seemed like the missing piece to build a contender. Yet within hours of the announcement, the entire narrative flipped. Instead of celebrating, Fever loyalists were digging through Turner's social media, searching for clues about who their new defender really was. But that wasn't the whole story. What followed felt like a harsh lesson in how the smallest spark can set an entire fanbase ablaze. No one expected Brianna Turner's old tweets to be a big deal. Many WNBA players are active on social media, sharing personal thoughts, jokes, and sometimes controversial opinions. It's par for the course in an age where players build personal brands online. Yet these particular tweets cut too close to home for Indiana. In one post, Turner took aim at the idea of celebrating a runner-up finish, a thinly veiled reference to Iowa's NCAA tournament run, led by none other than Caitlin Clark. Clark had turned that tournament into her personal stage, shattering records and electrifying audiences nationwide. By the time she joined Fever, fans already saw her as Indiana's basketball messiah. Then came Turner's tweet, questioning the wisdom of a celebration and asking if that's what runner-up teams usually do. That single comment ignited an inferno. It wasn't even about whether a runner-up ceremony was typical. The real problem was that Turner's jab felt personal, like she was belittling Clark's achievements and, by extension, mocking everything Fever fans had embraced. When fans reached out to confront her, Turner didn't offer an olive branch. Instead, she doubled down and even told critics to unfollow her if they didn't like it. Suddenly, this new defensive asset looked less like a team player and more like a ticking time bomb. The honeymoon period was over before it even began. Indiana Fever fans were already riding a wave of hope, thanks to the arrival of Caitlin Clark. Season ticket sales were up. Local media was buzzing about how this was the dawn of a new era for the franchise. The last thing anyone expected was for a new signee to throw shade at the shining star who'd captured everyone's imagination. Social media erupted. There were demands for Turner's immediate release, with outraged supporters tagging the team's official accounts and calling the front office to vent their frustration. In an instant, the conversation around Turner changed from "she's a great defender" to "she's a liability." People questioned her character, her mindset, and wondered aloud why the Fever would risk everything they built just for one player's defensive upside. Some fans tried to stay calm, suggesting that maybe Turner's words are taken out of context, or that it was all just a misunderstanding. But a quick scroll through her timeline showed repeated posts that could be read as anti-Clark, feeding the narrative that Turner was never really on board with Indiana's new centerpiece. And in a league where fans invest emotionally, even a hint of betrayal can send them into a frenzy. What happened next wasn't just about angry tweets. It became a full-scale referendum on what it means to be part of the Fever family, and whether Turner deserved to be in it. For coaches and front offices, talent isn't everything. Chemistry can make or break a season. The WNBA's history is full of cautionary tales about talented rosters torn apart by ego clashes or off-court drama. Teams that should have contended for titles end up collapsing under the weight of personal grudges and public spats. Almost overnight, Indiana found itself at the center of this exact scenario. Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and the rest of the Fever were prepared to forge a cohesive unit. The plan was for Turner to slot in as a supportive veteran presence, giving the young core someone to lean on in crucial defensive sequences. Instead, fans and analysts started wondering, how would Clark feel about a teammate who openly dissed her achievements? Would the tension spill into the locker room? Even if the players themselves tried to keep the peace, outside pressures, journalists, bloggers, talk shows would continuously pepper them with questions about Turner's comments. The internal dynamic might become overshadowed by a scandal that, in essence, started on Twitter. Every small disagreement on the court could be twisted into a narrative about unresolved grudges. No team wants that cloud hanging over them. And when a single player with a role player status stirs the pot this much, management starts wondering if the drama is worth the defense. Caitlin Clark isn't just another draft pick. She's the face of college basketball's evolution, someone who shattered records and put women's hoops on the front pages of sports sites everywhere. By the time she stepped onto a WNBA court, she carried the hopes of an entire fan base and arguably the future of the league. In Indiana, she's become more than just a promising guard. She's the engine driving record ticket sales, the reason mainstream media is devoting prime coverage to the Fever, and a symbol of where the franchise wants to go. Indiana has pinned its identity to Clark, her style of play, her aura, her potential to attract other elite talents. So when fans saw Turner's comments, they didn't just see a random player criticizing a college runner-up celebration. They saw a direct insult to the cornerstone of their future. In sports culture, defending a star player is practically an unwritten rule, especially when that star is new, beloved, and carrying the weight of expectations. As the chaos escalated, it became clear that this was never just about the runner-up tweet. It was about loyalty to Clark and everything she represents. Turner's mistake put her on the wrong side of a tidal wave of support for a player who might well become the most significant figure in the Fever's history. With Clark front and center, the Fever are on the cusp of something special. Drafting a once-in-a-generation talent can change a franchise's trajectory overnight. Just look at what happened with other sports leagues whenever a transcendent rookie appears. GMs, coaches, and owners start mapping out how to maximize that superstar's prime years. They want complementary players, seasoned leaders in the locker room, and a culture that fosters unity. Brianna Turner was supposed to be part of that puzzle. Yet the front office now faces a tough decision. Do they stand by her, hoping the controversy fades, or do they cut ties to protect the aura around Clark's rising stardom? Dropping Turner might seem drastic, but the WNBA is known for its ruthless roster moves, especially when drama outweighs production. And it's not just about immediate repercussions. The Fever have a window to attract other marquee players, potentially assemble a super team, and even chase championships down the line. If they develop a reputation for chaos, or if free agents see friction between star players and new signings, it could scare away top talent. Right now, Indiana is at a crossroads. They can either walk the path of building around Clark seamlessly, or watch cracks form as off-court tensions overshadow on-court potential. The margin for error is razor-thin when a franchise invests so much in a single star. At first glance, the Turner drama might seem like a local issue for Indiana, but the ripple effect extends far beyond the Fever. The WNBA as a whole is entering a golden era. Media coverage is growing, fan engagement is higher than ever, and marquee matchups often trend on social platforms. When a controversy like this happens, it exposes the league to a broader audience, and not always in a flattering way. Every franchise is competing not just on the court, but in the court of public opinion. Players aren't isolated athletes anymore. They're influencers who shape cultural narratives with every post. Potential sponsors, future free agents, and fans new to the league are all watching. If Turner's situation becomes the new standard for how controversies are handled, it could set precedents league-wide. Meanwhile, players around the WNBA have opinions too. Some might back Turner's freedom of speech, while others could distance themselves, not wanting to alienate Clark's rapidly growing fan base. This isn't just about the Indiana Fever's new roster. It's about whether the league can navigate the pitfalls of social media conflict while maintaining the momentum it's built in recent years. When the drama clears, the question remains, will the WNBA continue its upward climb as fans rally around superstars like Caitlin Clark? Or will these social media battles become all-consuming distractions that derail the league's progress? Right now, Brianna Turner's fate in Indiana hangs by a thread. She entered hoping to be part of a defensive renaissance, only to clash head-on with the wave of enthusiasm surrounding Caitlin Clark. The tweets, the doubling down, and the fans' fury have painted her as a villain before she's even worn the Fever jersey in a meaningful game. But it's not just Turner's reputation on the line. The Fever's front office finds itself in a precarious position, balancing the desire to keep promising defensive talent against the harsh reality that their entire season, and perhaps the next decade, depends on Caitlin Clark's success and popularity. By signing Turner, they've also signed up for the backlash that comes with her stance. Now, it's anyone's guess whether Turner will bend or the Fever will break. An apology might come too late, or maybe it won't come at all. Perhaps the front office intervenes, or the team rallies behind closed doors to mend fences. Regardless, this controversy exposes just how fragile a franchise's harmony can be, especially when one player carries so much of the fan base's hopes. In the end, this isn't just about one signing gone sour. It's about a franchise on the verge of greatness, a rising superstar who inspires fervent loyalty, and a role player who tested that loyalty the moment she arrived. Will the Fever find a way to salvage the goodwill they've built, or is this the first sign that off-court drama could threaten the league's most electrifying news story? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure, Caitlin Clark's era in Indiana has already seen its first real dose of turbulence. and fans everywhere are watching to see what happens next.